in that way. That's very blatant. Yeah, I like to record the Zoom call and then have both recordings on each end, and then you kind of like use the Zoom call as a just like a guide, and then
I get you. Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that way it just sounds kind of somewhat like a studio recorded podcast. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on. It's yeah, really cool to chat with you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been a huge fan since the Spor days. Like I remember when that Lifted EP came out or whatever with E1 in like 2008, and I remember just like sitting in my car at a McDonald's in Australia, just eating a fucking Big Mac or whatever, being like this and stoned out of my mind or something, just being like, fuck, this is so sick.
Thank you. Well, thanks very much. I love your tunes as well, so it's nice to get to talk to you.
Thanks. Yeah, we've actually met once before, and it was when I was about 18 years old. You played at Herman's Bar, I believe it was, in Sydney, and I met you and Jake E1 / Kill the Noise after the show. It was, yeah, great show. It was sick.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, you were like a big part of my like sort of initial like influences. So yeah, this is cool to come.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, man, of course. So yeah, man, so your management just lined all this up, and I was stoked that they reached out. And yeah, you've just put out a new album. Why the choice to self-title it, by the way?
Is this the podcast starting, by the way, or?
Oh, it's started.
This
yeah, we're going.
Didn't give me a cue. I wasn't sure if we were like setting up still or if we were going.
Oh yeah, we're going. Basically, this podcast is like, it's not super like by the book, like question by question. It's just conversational. So like,
getcha. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I just double check in.
Yeah, I prefer it that way. I kind of fucking hate it when like they're like, well, so like it's just one question after the other, and it's always like the same questions. It's like, how did you come up with your name, and like so what?
Yeah, I give a lot stiffer answers if I'm in that situation as well. I've found.
Yeah.
So I better just rambling.
Yeah, let's ramble.
There's self-titled because it just felt like the most direct connection I'd made to the project, I suppose, from my point of view. Like once I'd finished it, I didn't feel like it needed a title to put it under a sub umbrella. It already felt just like ready. So with that in mind, it was it was an easy decision.
Nice.
At the time.
Yeah, I actually kind of feel similarly about my latest album that just came out like 2 days ago. Although I didn't self-title it, but I do feel like it's maybe the closest connection I made to the project. And I think that was like a big attribution to quarantine and not having shows, right? Because like when you have shows as like an obligation, a lot of the time in the studio, you're like, fuck, I got to make something that's like going to make the dance floor pop, and I got to make something that's like mixable, like, oh shit, I need more stuff in that tempo range. So maybe let me make something that at that tempo. And at that stage, you've already like cornered yourself into like a little box at least.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth in that. I definitely concur. I also think the longer with lockdown that I was away from touring, the more I'm just sort of lost in my own imagination, and touring becomes like a sort of nostalgia rather than a direct memory that you're still processing from 2 days ago, And so being in the studio and having this sort of dreamlike feeling of touring rather than being in and out of the airport back and forth and trying to punctuate my studio time around that. I just had like just open-ended studio time. It was easy to just sort of go with that, and it, I think it was definitely enhanced what I did creatively. It just sort of improved my flow, I suppose.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. I found the same thing. So another thing I found is without that punctuation of shows on the weekend, I didn't have like a per se deadline, and therefore I had like no reason to be like, fuck, I got to finish this like quickly, And I think having those deadlines is kind of important sometimes to drive you to finish things. If you have like unlimited creative time, which we both did, I guess, or a lot of artists felt like they did if they were in a financial position to do so. um it kind of like leaves you in this position of just like, oh, I can just sit around and think about this track for as long as I want. And I don't know, I found like I wasn't getting quite as much finished, but I was comfortable with it still.
I started out very much like that when I started making tracks. Like you were talking about the lifted stuff, I
Mm.
I would have happily continued working on that for 10 years, and it was only because I had label people around me who were like aggressively pushing me to finish and hand stuff in, that I ever got anything done. So as time's gone on, I've become better at sort of drawing a line under tracks and deciding when they're done. I don't like feeling like I'm lingering on them anymore. So, but a few years ago, I don't think that would have been the case. That's taken me a long time personally to sort of, I guess, be at peace with stuff I've made and like just let it go sometimes, even if it's imperfect.
Yeah, totally.
Oh.
At what point have you like have you specifically kind of identified what point it is that you call or decide that something is finished?
I suppose you would always have like perhaps you're the same. I don't know. I'd have to ask, but I have like a projection in my mind of what I want it to feel like when I hear the track, like the sort of the finished sketch, and so there's the obvious reference point of, is this what I imagined it to be? But on top of that, when the rate of progress slows down, I start wondering if it's time to see if I can remove things from the track and it retains the same energy. Like, have I overfilled it? Can I like pare it back down? And if it seems to strike a balance where everything's about in its right place, then I'll try and like bounce down to stems and just move on to sort of final edits and mastering and stuff and put it behind me. Unless I come back a couple of weeks later with an absolute must that needs changing, I'll try and close the door on that section and move on from that point. I guess that would be my process now.
Interesting. It's interesting that you like get to a point where you like remove a lot of stuff. And it's also interesting that you render stems at the end. I pretty much never do either of those things. I used to render stems, and the reason I did it is because I can't remember who said it, but like violating space is fun. If you have reverb that like just cuts off into silence, it sounds like it kind of like piques your ear every single time, because we're like so unused to like the reverb of a room ever just like stopping, because that would equal, how the fuck would that even happen? You'd have to
You'd
die.
be dead
But
or something.
yeah, exactly. So I found I used to stem stuff for that reason, but now I just do that shit through like utility mute buttons and stuff like that, or just volume automation.
Oh yeah, I mean, for muting, I've got a mute channel and automation on pretty much everything, and I'll always play with flicking them on and off. It's something I always found I used to do when people would come in the studio and listen to a track, and I'd quickly solo a stem and then flick everything back in, and then just to show them what an element was doing. And then inevitably you find yourself thinking, well, why doesn't it do that every time? Why am I just doing it to show this person? It's nice to sort of give elements their chance to breathe or solo them or take them away. But yeah, stemming is more down to being able to work on the track at a later date, or submit stems to publishing of remixes, and also port them to different programs for live performance and stuff, which inevitably over the years I found I've had to go back to tracks and get them working again in order to get stems out. And it's always a painful process, and it's much easier to get all that done up front now. So I try and print things down, and also like just before, especially with this last album, some of the stems I ran through tape and things like that just to see if I could get different coloration on, as if I was approaching it as the mastering engineer, someone that didn't have access to the full track and was trying to bring a bit more out of what was already presented. So I did a bit of that too.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I noticed the latest album kind of had a lot of that French house influence, which also kind of has that tapey sort of like noisy vibe to it, you know, like old Sebastian stuff and like old Ed Banger stuff and, you know, like Daft Punk, obviously, and Justice. It all kind of has that like really noisy, thick, sort of tapey vibe to it. Is that, are you inspired by that sort of French house stuff a little bit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Probably more than most other um, electronic music goes for that. I mean, I also listen to a lot of groovy, noisy, lo-fi music. I always have done, and whether that means old vinyl and old rock records and stuff, or really lo-fi sounding bands and things like that. The squash, and I've always loved in that the French style, how much the dynamics are a character element of the music. It's not just done to make it loud. That's not the principle. It's to create a feeling. So the longer I've gone on, the more I've tried to hone that aspect of my work.
Hmm. Yo, your internet is cutting out a little bit. Do you have like Dropbox open that's accidentally syncing or something right now? Or
No, nothing.
yeah,
It's not good, is it?
yeah, your video resolution has gone down, and then during the last things that you were saying, it was just
Oh,
crackling
brilliant.
a little bit. And it seems okay now. uh yeah, I agree though. I think yeah, it's interesting when styles of music intentionally add like distortion and noise and stuff to things. Like you see that on SoundCloud a lot these days, I find, where like these kids are intentionally just like overly distorting their 808s and whatnot. In that, I guess, like what's the what would you call the stuff? I don't know, future, whatever, bass music, whatever these 18-year-old fucking geniuses seem to be doing. They're got this extra distorted 808 stuff, and they kind of just build that
I've
into the
seen some
track
people
where
deliberately.
go on.
Yeah, some of it I think started because people were playing, like viral videos where the music was just cranked through a gain,
Mm.
so it would deliberately sound smashed, just for the sort of like meme comedy effect of a track coming in like that. I remember like the water bottle videos all had that, when people were flipping bottles over, and when it landed, the bass would like kick in, but it was gained up like 100 decibels. And I think some people now, like, that's fed back into people's production. They want that sort of oversaturated sound and it's you've got sort of deliberate destruction feeding back into people's creative process.
Yeah,
Um,
which is awesome. I mean, I think it's cool that some people had the audacity and the uh I don't know what the word would be, like the creative insight to be like, you know what, fuck it, like I'm actually gonna like intentionally do that, like make it sound like an MP3 or make it sound like a distorted phone video for a second or whatever.
yeah, yeah. I love that sort of thing. And, I'm very much, although I enjoy like the pursuit of fidelity in a sort of tech way, like I'm interested in it. But artistically, I don't think ultra fidelity is always that useful. I think it doesn't seem to me that people enjoy listening to that subconsciously. When there's coloration and noise and things like that, I think people tend to enjoy themselves
Mm.
more. Um,
Yeah, totally. Having said that, like when you produce, do you, like when you're in your mix down phase or your mastering phase, are you generally trying to go for cleanliness, or are you trying to go for sort of like this balance between cleanliness and color?
I suppose it's vocal stuff. I try and make sure I spend a while putting together a nice vocal chain for people to sing into, that I know that I can, basically shorten that workflow and lower my workload, because the signal comes in nicely compressed and like ready to go. So that aspect, recording guitars and stuff, I go for a good recording.
Mm.
But if objects are inherently noisy, like a tape machine and things like that, I don't try and cancel that out. Leave it. I like the sound, and if it stacks up a bit, that doesn't really bother me. I remember years ago, God knows where it's from. It was like a tape of Dillinger in the studio, and he was showing how he made some like bass basses by just slowly smashing things through a desk.
Hmm.
It was not designed to do that. And not only that, that he was monitoring it in mono through one speaker that was like bashed in the other side of the room, and the track he was made like incredible. Like I've always thought back to that. Like he's working on like a tracker, a destroyed desk, and a bashed in single speaker. And at that time, he was outperforming anything I was capable of. And I thought, if that's not inspiration, that fidelity isn't the answer, then what is? Like, there was so much vibe and feeling in what he was doing, and it just sounded right. And as the bass disappeared through the desk, this enormous wall of hiss and noise came up in its place as that was being displaced by the signal. I love that sort of effect.
Yeah, and that's sick. It's cool that you took that from it, that you took not fidelity is like, or like, fidelity is not necessarily like the be all and end all of music production. And instead the information that you seem to take from that was that coloration, and like just you can work through any fucked up gear equals that's totally fine. Because I find I've kind of gone the other way with my thinking with shit like that. Whenever I see like that, I'm like, damn, now I need like a bashed in speaker and a desk so I can like get that same thing going on.
I can't remember what to say to follow on. Yeah, I mean, I've using tapes, and I've got a thing called a bowl mixing thing that I got cheap secondhand to try out. I've got a Culture Vulture, which is like a valve distortion unit. I'm sure you're familiar with all these. I don't know if anyone listening is. But things that are deliberately designed to color the signal in a sort of non-linear way, and they're all quite hard to use exactly the same every time. And I like that inherent unrepeatability to recording.
That kind of
being able
like,
to.
Like that kind of like random fidelity almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I see you have a modular system behind you. If you use the Erica Systems, I can't remember what it's called. It's like that distortion with the little electricity valve in it. What is that?
Called? Well, it flashes like lightning.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of people I know have got it. I haven't got one. It does look incredibly cool in like a Van de Graaff way.
Yeah. I mean, I had one for a while. Erica Synths Valve. What's it fucking called? It's like a Eurorack thing. Oh, fuck it, whatever. Anyway, that was pretty fun. I was actually gonna ask, like you have a lot of songs, like for instance, Cost Five had a tenor, or like a bunch of other songs that have like sort of like these live slap bass fills in them, or like it might just be live bass or whatever. Do you like go out of your way to actually record those, or do you generally just find like nice contact sample packs or just nice samples in general?
I record them. I've got, I think it's back there. I've got a Gareth Pendulum actually lent me a 5-string bass, which I've never given back. Which is what a lot of it's done with. It just, I basically, it's a combination of playing along to like grooves I've written, and I'll just leave it recording, and then I'm not a very good bassist, but I can play it. So every now and again I'll hit something that sounds good, and then also manipulate what I've recorded after. I don't mind pitching it around or reversing it even. But most of the tracks on the album have at least 6 stems of guitar, live percussion. A lot of the drums are recorded live, even though they no longer sound like that. I bought some really crap drums and just tried to destroy them basically and record them in different ways around the house, just to see if I could get. I wanted to maintain the feeling I'd had with the last albums, but I wanted to look back on it and think a lot of that came out of this room and things I recorded in here, even if the end product was quite a distance from what you would have expected.
Yeah, I think about that stuff. I always have this kind of like inner monologue argument with myself where I'm like, do I need to like actually make every sound if the sound in the end that I'm gonna make sounds just like a thing I could get off Splice in a second anyway? And what I've kind of come to the conclusion of is the reason I like doing it all myself is just because I like that feeling of ownership over it.
Yeah.
versus like if you just get the thing off Splice, there's some anxiety there of being like, oh, I don't really feel like I did my due diligence here.
And also, you probably, if something's your own, you better, right? I think you'll have a personal connection with it, so you'll be less likely to abuse it or throw it away. Or it definitely enhances your relationship with it if you recorded those hits yourself or those pieces. I think they're going to be more considered and also more valued throughout the process. And if that puts you even in just a 1% better mood for the rest of the song, that's also got some value because it sort of knocks on, I think. Like I can come back a week later and hear a couple of those slaps, for example, that I put in, and I think, that was worth the effort of, all these blisters.
Right.
Relearn the bass for a week to get them in, and then I think, it was worth it. I'm pleased with how they came out.
Totally.
So yeah, there's definitely inherent value.
Yeah, I find when I do that kind of stuff as well, like spend a lot of effort recording a drum or spend a lot of effort recording some like getting a sound myself rather than just getting it off Splice or whatever. I find that I have to be very wary or careful of sunk cost fallacy, where I'm like, I've invested X amount of effort, so I can't not use it now, because I've like,
right.
I mean, I had to go like for a drive out to this place and like record a thing, and like, that I've put too much effort into this sound for it to not be used, even if it's like not really working.
Right, I see what you're saying there. Yeah, you have to be willing to. I did part of what I did on this album a lot was sort of deliberately destroy things that I'd recorded. So, I growing up, I was the sort of did everything and cataloged and kept all my songs accessible and kept all the plugins working. And as I've got older, I'd get stuff printed down, I get it sort of recorded in, and then I tend to like just make peace with that and move on. And if something needs to be destroyed in order for me to carry on, or I guess I probably get this with visual art stuff I do as well. Like I used to be very meticulous with my drawing, but as I've gone on, I'll paint something now and then throw paint over it and sort of reconstitute the work and add layers of patina to the work in a way that I would have been very scared of doing when I was younger, in case I sort of ruined something. So I try not to over attach. I wasn't suggesting like by recording your own stuff, you're going to be scared to remove it because you think, I put so much time into doing that. Like, it's good to be able to say it isn't just working on your own, I suppose.
Yeah. It's I had an experience like this yesterday at the airport, where there was an extremely long line. It was like a 1.5 mile long of security.
You were at an airport?
Yeah, I was at DIA Denver Airport yesterday, flying back from a show. So
wow.
Yeah,
it's been a long time for me. I'm interested. What was it like?
Well, it was September 12th, right? So that's the day after September 11. And
yeah,
I don't know, man. For some reason, it was a Sunday afternoon, so there was a shitload of people. Sorry, a Sunday morning, so there was a shitload of people traveling because they were probably traveling back from doing some shit on the weekend. And the security line at Denver Airport was literally like 1 mile long at both north and south security. It was fucking crazy. And I have like clear and shit, so I can kind of like skip the line. And to get a clear membership, I think it only costs like $100. And I had this thought, I was like, all of these people could just pay $100 to get out of this situation right now and are not doing it. And I believe it's for the same sunk cost fallacy reason, because they've probably been standing in that line for like 30 minutes, and then they're like, well, I don't want to get out of line now, because then if I like go and try and get the clear thing and then it doesn't work, then I've like lost my spot in line, and it's like I've invested too much in the line, I've got to stay in the line.
Yeah. English people love queuing. They'll queue for no reason. If three friends stand in a row somewhere, then people they'll just join behind you, assuming that there's a purpose.
It's crazy.
Queuing in airports is, I guess, anyone that tours you'll do anything to avoid it.
Oh yeah, man. Fuck, if I can't get TSA pre or global entry or whatever, because I'm Australian, and it's apparently not possible to get TSA pre if you're not a citizen. And then the global entry thing, there's like a list of 13 countries or something that are not able to get it. And it's like Chad and like Nigeria and like Albania and like all these like weird, or not weird countries, but like all these kind of like, you know, random countries. And then for some reason Australia as well.
Oh damn, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that fucking sucks. But yeah, surely, I don't know if anyone's listening to this podcast and knows how I can get global entry, fucking hit me up.
Yeah, that's
So,
awful. Damn.
yeah.
You've reminded me to sort mine out though.
Dude, yeah, do it.
Should I get back on a plane again anyway? Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, speaking of touring, like I remember a while ago you went through like this phase of tweeting and shit of being like, I'm quitting music and I don't want to tour anymore and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, but now obviously like you haven't quit music and like you have toured since and stuff. So what was like the whole thought process there?
Well, I suppose from the outside, you look eternally like an overconfident machine that's built for touring, and it's constantly at shows. And I did hundreds and hundreds of shows when I started Feed Me in quick succession. Like I mean, not through anyone's fault but my own. I wanted the budget to be able to invest and build a big show, so I was working towards that. And in order to do that, I told them, get me on the road, like. And also I started to take to it, and it becomes a bit of addictive, but I don't think it's necessarily healthy. I don't think I necessarily really had the sort of coping mechanisms and the to deal with what I was putting myself through. And also I didn't really look after myself much or have much downtime. So
Like
I
end
think
up
it just gets
partying
to,
and not sleeping enough and stuff like that.
yeah, like it's sort of funny, you know, like sort of I created Feed Me as like an extension of myself, like an exaggerated persona that I could sort of duck behind and live through the character. And I ended up sort of just becoming an exaggerated version of myself anyway after a few years. And it got to the point where I was thinking, I can't do it. I'm getting so tense and like jumpy and uncomfortable. And I thought I don't know how to get anyone to take me seriously when I say that I need a break. Because at the time, most people around me were saying, "No, you're doing fine. Just crack on. You won't want to stop. You probably just need to have a shower or something." So, yeah, it was just a bit of a boiling point episode where I wanted to understand if people would understand, I guess, if I said that publicly. And I got a lot more compassion in people's responses than I expected. I also felt like it's improved now, but at that beginning point of EDM, promoters were very much, you know, stoking the fire. Like, just I would go to shows, and there was such an impetus on me making sure I was very drunk, and the whole party was just amped up to 11, and wasn't. It was rarely sort of a chill backstage, you know. It was very much at that time. It was like super hyped. Which again, I look back and I don't regret, because some of it was just outrageous and created some weird memories. But yeah, that was the reasoning for that. Over the years, through some supportive friends and family and management and stuff, I've learned to balance these things in my life. Like I sort of started off saying, I don't think wasn't really like born wanting to be a DJ or even a musician, and I sort of found myself in that situation, and then doing Spor, and I had a handle on that. But when I started Feed Me, and it went sort of exponentially more crazy, I don't know, it was all a bit overwhelming eventually, but it just took a while for that to land.
Yeah, you definitely have to take care of yourself when you're doing shows. I've actually just recently added a sobriety clause to my green room rider, meaning no alcohol at all in the green room or drugs, and no drunk people or high people in the green room. So it's like if you want to do, drugs and you want to drink or whatever, that's fine, but you can't come in the green room. And the reason why is because I've just been in too many green rooms where everybody is on coke and everybody thinks their opinion is extremely important. So it's just everyone yelling at each other and talking very loudly.
Yeah, you need
and
someone needs to bring the talking spoon.
Dude, oh my God, like literally just the fucking like volume. Like I don't do coke, but I mean, I see that it's you know, I see what it does to people, and literally people
Nothing good.
fucking, yeah, they're just yelling at each other, and the ambient noise level of the green room is just so fucking loud, and I just find it so stressful. So recently I've just been like, all right, that none of that. And then
yeah, I suppose it's the green room is supposed to be like a sanctuary for the artists to spend time in before and after they've done their show. It's not supposed to be like a cocaine echo chamber for everybody else to invade so they can say they were standing in there later. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've been the same where you know, you've got your tour manager and your friends, and you make sure the green room's all locked up, and you go on stage, and then you come back, and somehow there's 30 people in there, and you just want to leave immediately, you know. So yeah, that's definitely a slightly mismanaged area of what we do. I think I can see exactly why you do that. I'm millimeters away from the same.
Oh, it's totally worth doing, man. It's like as soon as you say to people, you're not allowed to be drunk or high in here, the green room's empty. It's like they're all outside doing their coke. I mean, it's just crazy how much of a fucking problem drug use and drinking is. In general, like in just the world, but specifically in the music industry and specifically in fucking green rooms.
Yeah, I've always been of the opinion of each their own, and I have a pretty dim opinion over legal control over drugs personally, but doing it in your face and in a space that's allocated to you, it becomes your problem as well. Then I'm not too keen on that at all. I suppose I'm just a bit split on it, but yeah, I definitely. If you're touring a lot, it's definitely something that isn't easy to be around all the time.
Right, especially with the peer pressure, and especially if you're susceptible to addiction, and especially if you're like, susceptible to falling into those traps.
Yeah, one of my friends has been in AA a long time now, successfully, and he's come with me to shows, and it's been interesting seeing it through his perspective, like how he views the environments he allows himself to be in, and how comfortable he feels depending on what's going on. It's like an amplified version of where I'm at sometimes, depending on how comfortable. It even just depends what sort of day he's had, So, and I think there's definitely a lack of sensitivity to that from the other side. I also, from the other perspective, though, I think it's difficult to ignore or turn a blind eye to how fueled by drug use dance music is. It's like just entwined, especially in the UK. It's basically politically entwined with it back to like the Rave Act, So it's the imagery and the lifestyle is like forever tied together with ecstasy and or a whole plethora of drugs, depending on your sort of individual music preferences. So it's something I've just sort of always, I guess, observed. I don't know how much opinion I have on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not judging people who do that shit. I just don't like it around me in the green room.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, otherwise, speaking of like drugs and stuff like that, is Spor related in any way to psilocybin mushrooms? Like the name of the project?
No, I've never done hallucinogenics either. So that's like, I wouldn't. It's not my thing. I feel like I have enough trouble with my own imagination without having it enhanced. So I've always just swerved that. It came about from, I think one of my friends did a piece of artwork and titled it Spor Tactics. And I remember thinking, that's cool. And I was looking for a tag name at the time. So I asked him if I could use it. And he was like, I don't give a shit. So, and then I started tagging, and then some of my friends that this was when I was like a teenager, a very long time ago. And some of my friends in the States were graffiti writers, and they were like, you need to drop the E off the end. Just 4 letters is enough. No one's got time for 5. So, that was literally it. I just sort of stuck with it. I needed a name to go solo when the friend I was working with, he went off to university. And so I just stuck with it. It just seemed like it was more of a nickname really than anything. So when it got to Feed Me, I wanted something a lot more conceptual by comparison, which is why I put a lot more into, stock into the whole look and feel of it, because I always felt like I sort of stumbled into being Spor. I didn't have the chance to really plan it out.
So dude, it was the same with me. Like my name, my musical name is just my name, Mr. Bill. Like my friends around me, they're just like, Mr. Bill, he's at the party. Like I just stuck with it. And it's funny because like a lot of people come up to me and they're like, is your real name Bill? Like they think that I've like created this different name for some reason. Or it's the same with
I like it. It's got a nice it's very it's so plain, it looks incredibly confident, I think. I like it.
Yeah,
I like the art for your latest record as well, like the figure with like the sort of pattern of, it looks like microorganisms like populating its body. Well, that's great.
Yeah, that was done by Funny. Are you familiar with Funny?
I'd have to look. Not by name.
He's done some shit for Sorrow. He's done. I think he did something. He's definitely worked for Cursor. He's done a bunch of Inspected stuff. He's amazing, man. He's also London based. You guys should definitely chat if you're into visual art, because I had no idea that you were a visual artist, but yeah, I should introduce you guys because he's fucking incredible.
That'd be nice.
He does all of my artwork.
Nice. Yeah, I was supposed to be a visual artist. This is all a accident. Being a musician, I didn't mean to do this.
Yeah, how does that happen?
I got Fruity Loops as like just because I saw, I can't remember who I saw using it. I remember one of my school friends had like a program on a CD where you could like put clips together and make dance tracks. And I think from that I found they were like whole clips, like massive pieces of a song, and you would just drop them together. They're all in the same key.
Kind of like a mashup thing, or
it was similar to that one that was on PlayStation. I can't remember what that was called, but anyway, I think from that I found Fruity Loops and grabbed it. And I was just sort of amazed that I could do this at home, and it would bounce straight to an MP3. I thought, this is crazy. I can actually take these on a little stick and show people or burn them to a CD and stuff. So it was totally a hobby. I had someone at school picked up on what I was doing. They were DJing locally, and they came back and like helped me edit some of the stuff into drum and bass tracks. And then that sort of just escalated from there. But the whole time I was sort of fixated on, having a visual arts career. I was focused on that heavily at school. I didn't do any, I played in an orchestra, but I didn't do like music as a subject. I just sort of learned, I could read music and play in the orchestra, but yeah, so it just got to the point where I picked a uni course that was visually orientated, and after 2 years I was blagging my way through it to stay in. They were doing everything they could to kick me out because my attendance was so bad, because I wasn't quite connecting with it. So I was sneaking out of uni and going back and making music at home, and I was hoping that I would get some traction with music before uni informed my family that I had wasted all their money and I had to leave. And I just about pulled that off. So that's sort of how I am where I am.
Damn. Yeah, it's really interesting. What does an art career look like, by the way? Like, how did you envision that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at the time I was doing model design, which was like personally with an emphasis on the special effects side of things. So I've got a lot of interest in special effects, animatronics, miniatures, anything like that. So I was hoping there was a career in that. But while I was at the course, they were basically continually telling us that computers were replacing the job we were trying for. And I was like, why am I still coming? Like, basically, they were, the modeling and special effects industry is collapsing, and we're not covering any of the 3D Max and programming stuff that you'll probably need to continue doing this job in years to come.
Which is completely untrue.
It is untrue. Yeah, I think that it was just shifting to what they knew, like compared to the world the tutors had grown up in. It was just a paradigm shift, and I'm sure lots of my classmates are, doing very well in that field. But for me, because I already had a couple of fingers in a different pie, I was thinking it'd be a lot easier just to try and make that take off. And there was like a romance to it as well. I wanted to sort of rebel, I guess, in some way. So, but yeah, I don't know what I would have ended up doing. I also had thought about doing sculpture. I was interested in that. I was also interested in jewelry design at the time. I mulled a few things over. I've always been sort of illustrative, sculptural. I like thinking in 3 dimensions in terms of modeling and stuff. So I don't know where it would have ended up if this hadn't worked. I've not got a clue.
Maybe like architecture or something like that.
I don't know. I know an architect, and I don't know if I've got the minerals, to be honest. It's a lot of calculation, and it's a lot of being told you got to change stuff.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Speaking of architecture, isn't there a building in London that got like seriously there was like some serious architectural failure there where can't remember what building it is. The big
You're talking about the microphone.
The silver one that was like burning holes in cars because it was.
Oh, like that's the microphone building. Yeah, it gets wider as it goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, my architect friend hates that building. I think it's widely hated.
Yeah.
Because it created more problems than it solved. And
yeah, I heard it was because of the shape of it. The sun was bouncing off it and like reflecting into the cars and like burning holes in roofs.
Yeah, like it melted the road in someone's car. Yeah, it like created like a giant magnifying glass. And also, I think because of this, I think a lot of tall building construction now is about heat management and using convection through the building to pull air through naturally rather than pump it through. And if you have a building that's small at the bottom and big at the top, you like counteract the building's natural urge to pull the air through. So it actually creates weird wind that blows down the side of the buildings rather than up. And you create a downdraft into the street, and the building doesn't ventilate properly. So, and it looks horrible as well. So this is like completely at odds with the rest. London has a pretty eclectic skyline at this point, but it's this very odd, sort of axe head shaped wedge sticking up awkwardly. No matter what angle you see it from in London, it looks sort of wrong.
Yeah. I went to London and saw it, and I saw a bunch of shit. But yeah, I saw that building and I was like, yeah, not a fan.
I don't think anyone likes it. Yeah,
just modern architecture in general has gotten fucking weird, man. It's like, yeah, it's got a lot of like, what's that prize called? Is it the Pulitzer or whatever that you get if you're a good architect?
Is that what that is? I know Pulitzer, yeah, but I don't know. I didn't know it was for architecture. I just know the word.
Yeah, some prize or some shit that you can get for architects. And pretty much like everyone on the board of the, I think, Pulitzer architect award giver thing all agree like this modern architecture look that's happening a lot lately where you get these weird shaped silver buildings and shit is like good, and they love it. And that's why it keeps happening, because like the same reason that like people would maybe make shitty sounding bro step or whatever because there's like a high reward for nailing it and doing so. Yeah, exactly. Like architects or architecture, it kind of has like that same problem. There's like a big reward for nailing that shitty looking building.
So the result is lots of mediocre ones for one every now and again, one really nice shard of pointy glass. Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a shame in music too. It's a shame in all art, but it just so happens though that in architecture the problem would be fixable just by changing the panel of like a few people, whereas with music it's not really solvable so easily, because what makes something popular is like the opinion of like millions and millions of people, right?
Yeah, I suppose it's easy to get, from my point of view, I found myself getting sucked into wondering about that a lot, and I don't think it's something I can answer. Like, it seems to me that the way people are ingesting music, where they are when they're listening to music, and how much attention they're paying to the music is like has shifted a lot from how I live, definitely from how I listened to music when I was young, and uh, and then even within that, the goalposts are still shifting. Like Spotify is changing its legislation month to month, and I'm sure other platforms are going to pop up. And you've got TikTok now, making or breaking artists, and
Right.
so trying to keep up with goalposts that are moving that fast to me is almost an impossibility. And I found myself better served with sort of focusing on my own sketchbook, so to say, and then working out how I can adapt each time I surface to do a release and try and make sure that I still reach people. But it's definitely increasingly difficult. And I don't know, maybe what we think of as music is just wrong. And like in 100 years, it'll just be totally freeform. Like you'll just put some headphones on and they'll just play you a bunch of noises that an algorithm thinks you feel like hearing,
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of already happening. Do you know how the Spotify algorithm works on, like, when you start listening to Spotify and then all of a sudden it just starts like playing you random tracks?
Uh-huh.
Do you know how that algorithm works?
No, please tell me. I'm interested.
Yeah, so it just finds another person that's very similar to you and just shows you each other's tracks. It's like, which is kind of interesting, right? Because then it's like it's essentially putting you in a room with a random person who's just like, oh, have you seen this? And then they type that into YouTube. And then you're like, oh yeah, fuck, you'd probably like this. And then you type that into YouTube
Yeah,
and show them. It's just it's doing that basically with you.
but without the nice social aspect, just the
exactly.
just the algorithmic one. Yeah, that's I don't know if that's good or bad. I remember, like,
Clever.
I found a lot of music initially by looking through people's drives on Napster and Soulseek. Like when we first got the internet as a family, and I thought that was great. I would find an oddball song that I couldn't get hold of, and then you could just look at the drive it was in. If that person had shared a whole music folder on their hard drive, and I found they would inevitably have some really weird music, and I would just grab stuff, and you couldn't preview it, so I would just grab it, and I'd end up with like Tibetan throat singing and like Gregorian choir and someone's recital, like all kinds of like odd stuff. I found a lot of like Kodo drums and things like that. I found all sorts of things like that I never would have been able to locate any other way at the time. So I thought that was nice. I don't know if this algorithm method is quite as exciting, but having said that, the Spotify algorithm has showed me some cool music that I wouldn't have otherwise found. So maybe it is good. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I think it's the thing that bothers me is the privacy aspect of everything. Like Spotify are just knowing and this like extends obviously way beyond Spotify. With Spotify, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's really clever and I've found some amazing shit, like you just said, that I probably wouldn't have found otherwise. And likewise, back in the early day, I had to put in a lot of effort to find shit that I liked. Essentially, I had to just do exactly what the Spotify algorithm is doing, but with friends, right? Who were like, have you heard this? And, go to parties and like rely on promoters bringing out, people like you and E1, who'd also brought out like, Noisia. And I knew of Noisia and I went to that show and then that promoter brought out you guys. And then that's how I found out about you and so on.
Right.
So I think, the Spotify algorithm removes a lot of the middleman in that way. And I like that about it. But in other aspects of algorithmic stuff, like I don't know, Amazon showing you some shit, or just how much like web browsers take of your data and stuff like that, it kind of bothers me, because what we're heading towards, I think, is a society where like you wake up and there's just like packages waiting at your door of shit that you didn't even know you needed or wanted, but they're just there because the algorithm knows you so well. Like maybe you wake up one day, you open your mailbox and there's some like medication in there and you're like, wait, I'm not sick. and then like 2 days later you start getting sick or something, you know. It's like, or I
Is
mean,
that
there was a good
it's
example of this, man, of like this dude who was who started getting lots and lots of physical mail to his house from I think it was like Walgreens or some shit, like some big company, being like, hey, you need to buy his like, you need to buy pregnancy tests or something like that. He was like, why? Like, my daughter's not pregnant, my wife's not pregnant, like, why do you keep sending me this shit? And then it turned out that like his daughter was actually pregnant, and the algorithm had like figured this out and had just been sending pregnancy tests to this
oh,
guy's house.
raw. Yeah, it does seem pretty dystopic, doesn't it? When you sort of, I think people are slowly realizing how predictable they are when they see how even small amounts of cookie data can provide pretty clear pictures on people's behavior or preferences and stuff.
Do you know
So
about pixel
yeah,
tracking? Oh, sorry, go on.
no, tell me. I don't know that term.
So I date a hacker, so this is why I know this. Yeah, the girl I date is the chief security officer at Brave, which is a privacy browser, which was started by the guy who started Firefox and also invented JavaScript. So I hear a lot about this shit through her. There's this thing called pixel tracking, and what it is it recognizes exactly how many pixels, like the website, when it serves you up an ad, it's also like taking data from your computer. And for somebody like you or I, this is so fucking easy for them to figure out who's looking at what, because like, for instance, I have a really big screen, right, like a huge LG screen, and then I have a like a
Yeah,
very
same.
specific RME Fireface, then I have a very specific mouse and keyboard, like a Razer keyboard with like a Logitech mouse, and very specific like all the things plugged into my computer are very specific, right? And like, there's probably not a lot of people who have this exact combination of things. And websites are very easily able to get that information and build a profile and just be like, damn, that's that guy. Like, even without your IP or anything, they can track your interfaces
Huh.
and your IO stuff and be like,
Just by the
that's
amount of pixels they're serving to display their website on your screen.
yep.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So it's like,
Clever.
even if you have like you know, other ways of hiding who you are online, there's this way that they can still figure out who's looking at what via pixel tracking. And that's probably, I probably murdered that and like didn't explain it very well, but
No, I got I got the gist. Definitely interesting again.
yeah.
Yeah, I've sort of resigned to the idea of privacy a long time ago. I mean, I do think it's a privilege at this point if you've got any, and if you're
Right.
trying to manage it as an artist, when there's been an increasing emphasis through my career to put more of your, real life per se online and display it. And I've sort of experimented with that on and off, like how much do I want to share about me? And I sort of found I'm pretty comfortable with not sharing a lot.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
like,
especially these days on Twitter, right?
yeah, it doesn't seem worth it, and I like being, I guess, just like an entity to people, the same way that musicians are to me. I've I've been lucky to meet lots of musicians and artists I admire over the years, and I've had some interesting experiences in doing so. But when I look back, whether they were crucial to me, not many of them really were. And I like the idea of mystery around music and art, and the idea that I don't know who that person really is, but I get to see a little bit of their brain and that comes out in their records or paintings they make or things like that. And
Mm.
I hope that I can represent myself in the same way. That was sort of, maybe this works for some people, to be just limitlessly accessible and have their whole lives documented online.
Mm-hmm.
How they tour behind the scenes and who they hang out with, where they live. But I like being able to sort of, be that person on my own and then just connect through the beacon of some music. I think that's I think it sometimes ends better that way.
Yeah,
But in
totally.
terms of like browsing privacy and stuff, I don't know if I've got any, or if any of us really have. It's the same as, maybe not to your degree, but one of my friends works in network security. Has been to sort of feeding me bits and pieces about this over the years, and I sort of, after listening to him, month in, month out, I was like, well, you got to just give up the idea of being incognito. There's no way. And if you've had to collect visas and give the American embassy your fingerprints 20 times, yeah, you can definitely write it off.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what you give up in privacy, you gain hopefully in convenience. But it's
that's true. And things are pretty convenient these days, aren't they? Like you said, you're only like a hair's breadth away from packages arriving before you knew you needed them. So
yeah, I mean, for example, I ran out this morning of ingredients to make smoothies, and I was like, oh my god, fuck that! Like, how did I let this happen? I really want to make a smoothie right now. I also ran out of coffee yesterday, and I'm like, oh, how did I let this happen? It's like, now what am I gonna do? I have to walk to a coffee shop and like, and like that's just a thing that will be a thing of the past. Like, and it already kind of is actually. Like, I have this thing called bottomless. It's like a scale that sits next to my coffee machine and has a bag of coffee on it, and it algorithmically figures out how much coffee I drink based on the weight of the scale.
Yeah.
And when the weight on the scale is getting low, it automatically reorders me a bag of coffee and sends it to me. The reason it didn't work this time is because I just was out for a long period of time, so I hadn't been drinking coffee. So the algorithm was like, oh, you're not drinking coffee at all right now. It seems like, yeah, they're like, looks like you're taking a coffee hiatus, and that's why I ran out this time. But I mean, like, that's just another example of like that exact thing happening.
I know Amazon, I don't know if it's the same where you are, but Amazon will sell you these little buttons with like a long battery life, and you put them next to like whatever disposable you use, like washing powder. And when you run out of washing powder, you push the button. It's got like its own transmitter and battery in it. It's a button with the logo on the front. You push the button, it auto orders another batch straight through Amazon without having to touch your phone or anything. But
that's sick.
I mean, yeah, sort of. I thought if I did order one of these for all of the consumables in my house, it would look sort of dystopian again. You'd have like these, you just walk around hitting them everywhere, or someone that didn't like you can just come around and just like,
what if you had
them a few times?
Yeah, if you had a kid or something and like your kid just spammed the button, and then all of a sudden you have like an Amazon truck just pull up in front of your house.
That's 100% happening right now. Yeah, actually, something similar happened to someone I know. I think I forgot, they're like Malaysian noodles, and they come with like a little bag of like sticky soy and chili.
Is it mee goreng?
Yes,
I love those.
Yeah. Someone I know tried to order those really late at night, and their internet connection fouled up, and then they went away, and while they were away, their girlfriend took delivery of an entire truck of mee goreng noodles, and they like filled his hallway with box after box after box. God. Because his internet connection had like frozen during the order, and it repeated it like 1,000 times. And
how does that happen? And also, that's hilarious.
It upset his girlfriend a lot. She was like crying because they wouldn't stop bringing them in the house, and they wouldn't take them either because they were perishable. So they had to arrange for them to be like taken by a charity.
Oh my god! And did they get their money back for that, or?
Yeah, they got all refunded, no problem. But it was like, I don't know, a couple of $1,000s worth of noodles.
That's ridiculous. I've never heard of that. I've heard of go on.
I was going to say, have you seen Brazil, Terry Gilliam film? It reminded me of the sort of thing that might happen in that.
No, I haven't.
If anyone's not seen that, it's one of my favorite films.
It's called Brazil.
Brazil, yeah. It's nothing to do with the country Brazil. It's in like a dystopian future where everything is run by mountains of bureaucracy, and to the point where nothing runs correctly, and everyone's stuck inside a suit, dying at their desk. It's sort of a very dark comedy. It's worth a go.
Sounds like kind of like Wall-E, that animated.
Yeah, once you see Brazil's from the 80s, once you see it, you see a lot of influence that was sort of taken from it in subsequent stuff. Even now, it still holds up. We rewatched it the other week. Actually, it still gets me chuckling.
Yeah, you're like a kind of fantasy and science fiction fan, right? Because I mean, you have that song Frank Frazetta, and I know he's a science fiction writer or whatever. And
he was
also,
a cover artist mainly. Yeah, he was a comic book cover and fantasy artist.
right. And then you had I see I was reading your Wikipedia page earlier, and it had some quote on there by Harlan Ellison, which is also like a author. Is it an
Yeah,
author or an artist?
yeah, he was a sci-fi author. He did a quote I liked. Sort of the main reason I heard of him. I grew up reading a lot of sci-fi and watching a lot of sci-fi. Dad was very much into it, and it captured my imagination. To me, it's just a way of exploring the human condition. It doesn't necessarily need to be sort of spaceships and total futurism, so to speak. It's just the idea of
Like
studying
what is experience, basically.
exactly. Yeah, to me, it's in fiction, it's the best way to explore that as a topic, and I've always enjoyed it for that. Is it Ted Chiang? I read it's a compendium of short stories recently. It was really good, and all based around that. I'd have to Google the name.
So I asked Twitter and Discord earlier, just to like ask a bunch of random questions. We can get into those if you like, or we could just continue talking about random shit.
Just before I forget, it is Ted Chiang. Stories of Your Life and Other Short Stories was one of them. He excuse me. He wrote the short story that what was it called? Blanking. Last Villeneuve film. Arrival. He wrote the short story that Arrival was based on.
Oh shit! Yeah, that was a crazy fucking movie.
Yeah, he has a couple of compendium books with stories based around that, where there's a sci-fi premise, but the lesson is more about how we think. So more introspective. Anyway, give me these random questions. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. There's a bunch of them. Well, somebody was asking about your latest album. They said you said on Instagram or something, or that it was a part of a larger body of creative work, and they asked if you want to touch more on that. And then is there other stuff in the future that like you've already sort of planned out of this larger body of work?
Oh yeah, I did say that. Yes. So in terms of within Feed Me, I'm trying to work on doing a live album where I want to sort of combine my live performances with some new versions of the tracks I've written that I've made, and find an interesting way of recording this and putting it together. So it's going to be a sort of back and forth process as I start traveling again to do that. But I thought, especially with the gap, it would be nice to sort of capture some of that energy that I've been lucky enough to be privy to with doing live shows for so long onto a record, So I've been trying to work out how to do that. That's what's occupying me at the moment. I also have another project called Seventh Stitch, which I've been accruing, I guess, for I don't even know now, like 15 years.
That's like IDM stuff, right?
Not really. Some of it's I mean, I'm singing on some of it. I play instruments. Some of it's sort of band orientated. I would say overall it's introspective and lo-fi and somber, I guess, but which is probably a bit closer to who I am day to day. And on top of that, I've been spending the last few years learning a lot of visual software and crossover audiovisual stuff through like Max, some stuff in Blender, and starting to try and get in some other sort of environmental programming as well. And I also have a collection of cameras and film equipment that I've been producing. So over the last couple of years, I've been producing music videos, I guess, for a lot of the songs that I've written. I've probably got a few albums worth at this point. So it's becoming unintentionally my biggest project, I guess, compared to the others in terms of volume. Like a lot of the equipment in the studio is also based around that project. It's just that it isn't out yet.
Right.
So that's the larger body of work. That's the other part of it, is getting that out to people in an effective way. So I started putting a few little teaser bits together into a website, 7th stitch with the dot before the CH. But at the moment, that's the extent of it. And hopefully I can bring some more news about what we do next with it pretty soon. But that's my balance between making Feed Me, which is very much like belligerent music, really. It's sort of satire to me. And it's not to be taken seriously, you know, and I get a lot of like catharsis from that. And then the balance to that, when I actually sort of want to make more of a diary of my life, I guess I do through the 7th Stitch project. It's just hard to, you know, I don't want to talk too much about it continually, because I should just get on with it and fucking release it instead of waxing. So, but that was what I meant when I said that anyway.
Right. What is your what's your work ethic like day to day? Are you like essentially, do you have a like set studio hours where you start and stop, or like, you know, do you work every day, or do you take weekends off and stuff like that? Because I imagine if you're doing all these projects in like Blender and Max and like trying to put together live shows and trying to, you know, I mean, I know you're coming out to America soon to play a Spor set, and I mean, I don't know how you go about putting sets together, but for me, like, there's a lot of preparation involved in trying to put a set together, and there's just like a shitload of fucking work to do all the time, it seems like, at least for me, and I imagine for you too, if you have all these projects. So yeah, what's your like studio, and this is not a Twitter question, this is just, again, we're back to rambling here.
I love learning, and I do find it's funny, as I've got older, I find it harder to switch off. I used to like be able to put Minecraft on and like bury 10 hours digging a hole, and
Totally.
but now unless I'm like learning or actively creating something, I found it pretty hard to like really turn off and stop, which has been good for productivity, but I'm still trying to work out, you know, towards the other side of lockdown, how to like make myself a bit more manageable, because I does create a situation where I end up sort of being either exhausted or manic. So I don't know, I haven't got a total answer, but I definitely don't have ultra regular hours. I do try and balance my like indoor outdoor time. So I've got like a sort of art studio now at the end of the property, and I can go down there and work in a different building. You know, it's nice and airy and space, work on some visual stuff, put some music on, and sort of detach myself. And then if I want to do any reading, I try and do that outside, like learning stuff, watching tutorials and things, try and do that outside. And then if I'm in here, then I tend to be focused on actually directly creating or coding or, you know, playing. So just by switching up my environment, that seems to stop me going nuts.
Right. What kind of coding do you do?
Well, Max, principally Max, and I've started learning GLSL for shaders, which I've been editing for a while, but writing them from scratch is difficult.
I saw a crazy fucking website the other day. I can't remember what exactly it's called. Did I save it? Yes, I did. It's called Natto.
Shader toy? It's called what?
It's called natto.dev. Essentially it's JavaScript, but it's like a node-based JavaScript editor that works and executes directly in your web browser, which is fucking crazy.
Right, nice. Yeah.
So it's basically like Max MSP, but for JavaScript, which is really cool. Which doesn't, I mean, really fucking matter, because
so it's just completely contained in the browser. I'm looking at it.
So yeah, it's so sick, and you can just like execute it there and everything. But I mean, like JavaScript now has like that node.js object anyway, so you can just sort of open that.
Yeah.
Write JavaScript directly in there if you want.
Yeah, I started because there's a module in FL Studio that will load shaders essentially, and I found it just mind blowing. I'd sort of seen it in the background for years, and I paid attention to it finally and realized how sort of powerful it was. And then that led me to actually reading how the shaders were done. And there's some like audio-visual artists I'm interested in, that I sort of join the dots, and it becomes apparent that they're using shader-based coding to produce audio reactive patches, even in Macs and things like that. And so just joining all these dots, I just found a total new playing field really to think about. And I like staying in that sort of childlike state of not quite knowing what I'm doing and sort of fighting for a bit more information. I think it keeps me inspired and humble. And I'm definitely very much in the childlike phase of coding. I'm sort of squinting at the screen and hammering away, and sometimes it works and you get 3/4 of what you wanted. So, but I've been really enjoying that.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I mean, I'm really in the same like I'm in that very elementary state of coding, which actually leads into a question that got asked on Discord. Somebody said you were on like a Noisier podcast or something, and you explained something as like Photoshop sounds. Is this what you're talking about, or were you talking more about like?
No, that was a thing called Photo Sounder that we used. So yeah, you can. It's I forget the spectrosonic. I forget the term. I have a couple of programs to do it now, but you can
Metasynth or whatever.
Yeah. So you can directly in Photoshop even create a canvas that's black, for example, airbrush some polygonal white shapes on it, and they will create, and then it will directly turn that into a graph of frequency over time, and then produce the sound that produces. And then you can also do the reverse. So you can create a sound, turn it into a PNG, smudge the PNG with a brush, and then change it back into sound, and you get some very odd spectral effects doing that.
Yeah, Isotope Iris does this too, doesn't it?
Quite possibly. I can't remember what the last one I used was. I did a Spor live set for UKF last year, and I did the program to turn it into a sound and played it out a few times into the visualizer. But I've already forgotten what it was.
I love when people do shit like that, when they like, dude, there's this guy called Sultan. He like makes crazy sounding dubstep, and he's like figured out how to write his name in the actual audio waveform at the end of every one of his tracks. It's like
that's great.
Like, yeah, to create like the S and stuff, there's like some crazy DC offset with like a very mono sound that like creates anything that looks like an S and shit. And like he's used all this crazy DC offset and wave shaping, and just so something that would take some serious knowledge of wave shaping, I think, to do.
That's cool.
Yeah, super cool. But I mean, obviously, like a lot of people have done the spectral thing at this point, starting with Aphex Twin and Venetian snares with the songs about my cats and the Equation tune and whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, I know that FL Studio has some cool inbuilt shit for that, like Harmor I've used before to do some image synthesis stuff. Like I did a song once with Circuit Bent, and we like did our tour announce through Harmor. So like we like released a collab just before we were going to announce a tour, and in the middle of the song, like in the breakdown, there's just this big like spectral smear, and it's like Mr. Bill's Circuit Bent tour coming soon, like announced. And if you like ran it
that's great.
Spectrogram. Yeah, though not many people found it. I mean, people found it like years later.
Yeah, but if someone did, that's all that matters, isn't it? Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I remember I had a couple of albums on CD as a kid where you could play the album and then rewind back from track one. So you would start, let it play to 2 seconds and hold rewind, and it would go back in front of track one on the CD. There was actually a hidden start time, and there was another track there. And I think that was a great idea. So they just edited the metadata to move the start point of track one in like 3 minutes. And then it was, but the data is still there on the disc, just the other side of the meta. I can't remember who it was, but I remember thinking that was a cool idea. I miss being able to do stuff like that, because there's a lot more restrictions over the way we present. If you're Spotify aren't going to let you, I'm going to let you do that now. One of my albums had a long silence in a secret track, and Spotify auto cropped it off the end. Nice. So we've got to like put it back on.
Yeah, that's fucking annoying. There's this guy, this IDM guy named Access to Arasaka, and he has like all these weird track names that just have like divided by symbols in them, and like all sorts of weird shit. and he has this one track that if you use Windows and you open it in VLC, your CD drive opens. Just, and he said it wasn't intentional, like when I asked him about it, but somehow just ended up being a symptom of him naming his tracks in this weird way. I was like, man, that's got to be like a fucking 1 in a billion chance that would happen. Yeah,
that's nice.
I do miss that kind of early stage production discovery stuff that's maybe been a little lost today.
Yeah, well, it feels a bit rebellious again, doesn't it? If you're finding little ways to like mess with the medium and create little sort of Easter eggs for people, I think there's a nice connection there. It's getting harder to do.
Yeah, speaking of which, I always like ask my manager, hey, have you got any questions that you think I should ask? Because like, you know, a lot of the time doing these podcasts with management, the other side's management, i.e. like your management, you know, request to push a certain agenda, which like at the moment for you would probably be your latest album. So I asked my manager any questions I should ask, and he said that your management told him that you wanted to put your latest album out on cassette. And
oh yeah, that's true. We have done that.
Oh shit. Okay, sweet. Yeah, what do you think? Yeah, why do you think people like? I sold a vinyl last year and it just sold out like instantly, and a bunch of the people who bought it didn't even have record players. So like, I don't know, like what do you think it is? Like, say I do the same thing. Like I buy vinyls, I don't even fucking own a record player. I don't even like the like concept. I don't know why I buy them. It's like,
well, if you've subscribed to reality being real, then there's value in the tangible, isn't there? And so much of our time is spent, even like right now, we're still technically sort of virtual to each other. And
right.
I think, you know, perhaps it used to be that it was inseparable between owning the music and owning a record. They were inherently the same. But now you don't need to own the record to have access to the music. But I think it's turning out that people want to have an object that represents their connection with the music. So it's a simplistic and sort of culturally symbolic way of saying, like, I subscribe to this person as an idea. Like, I want something in my house that represents them. And even, you know, should the internet just cave in, you will be able to listen to that. It will still play. So I think there's some inherent, like, I think people like having tokens and you know, symbols and trinkets, you know, whatever you want to call it, to represent stuff they believe in. And I think it's maybe just a facet of that. To me, cassettes are a sort of, they're so esoteric, and I grew up just banging so many cassettes into tape players and making them with a little mic and cross-fading tapes from Decade A to B, and so it's a very much a nostalgic object to me. But I do think they sound nice, and the format I think has like a kitsch classiness to it in a way, sort of simultaneously really cheap and horrible, and sort of lovely at the same time. So it's something I just wanted to do. Whether it is a tremendous success or not wasn't really the point. It's just the format to me is like, just I love it.
Yeah, cassettes are fucking sweet. Same with vinyl as well. Was it? I mean, I'm sure you pressed vinyl before. What did you find more difficult in terms of sorting out? Did you find it easier to get a cassette press happening, or do you find it easier to get?
Oh, it's way faster. Cassette you can turn around in days. Yeah, at the moment in the UK, at least, vinyl's taking months and months of lead time. So I had to have this whole album ready a very long time ago.
Yeah, the vinyl shit is crazy. I'm trying to do a Phantasmagoria vinyl, and yeah, the backup time right now is crazy. For whatever reason, I guess like you said, people just want trinkets. So the vinyl industry right now is popping off again.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's a nice big print format as well. It's just right. You know, you can put it on a shelf and see what it is. You get a nice package, I think, buying one.
Yeah,
I do like doing them. I attended all like Renegade Hardware's vinyl cuts, all the barcode ones, all the album stuff. I would always go down to London and sit in at the cut sessions. So, and then when we moved at Lifted, we moved to Stu Hawkes at Metropolis. I attended all those. So I've sat in for consecutive days of vinyl cuts since I was like 18, 17, 18. And watching vinyl get cut, and like convincing the cutting engineer to crank the helium coolant up and get a little bit more volume on it, and try and keep a bit more of the tops up and stuff like that. I loved how sort of it just seemed like this ancient technology to me at the time that we were having to use, but there's like the smell and the feeling of the whole building and stuff. Very nostalgic and romantic, but yeah, it keeps me personally attached to the format too, as well as it being a trinket that people like. I like the history of the object too.
Speaking of fucking helium and chemicals and shit, I had some person on Twitter send through an article, and part of the article said that you had some CO2 cannons and you were playing a show with Datsik, and instead of spraying out CO2, it sprayed out some sort of chemical that that smoked out the whole building, and everyone started coughing and had to leave or something.
That's okay. No, I threw a drink on him and I got thrown off the stage. Okay. But I had like a running tongue-in-cheek vendetta against him. Gotcha. And so I was only allowed back on the stage if I wasn't holding a drink. So and I was intent on getting him getting his comeuppance. So I walked back on the stage, security let me on because I didn't have a drink in my hand. Then one of Sigma, Woos, went under the stage with a full fire extinguisher and passed it up through a hole in the stage to me, whereby I immediately let it rip all over Datsik, thinking I was expecting it to be a foam one, but I had not studied this fire extinguisher properly, and it was a warehouse-sized powder one, and it doused him with incredible. I don't know if you ever got that stuff in your eyes or your nose. It's like pepper spray, and he immediately fell down and threw up. And then a bunch of the security guard tried to tackle me, so I just kept spraying it until I basically disappeared like a fucking Bond villain. And then and the whole stage disappeared in dust, and then I rolled like a barrel until I fell off the side of the stage because I could hear people screaming to get me, and I bust my shoulder in, and then I ran outside the hangar and I dived under a petrol generator and cracked my head open, and then I hid under there for about 15 minutes while a gang of security and the promoter ran around trying to kick the shit out of me. And then the stage shut down, the CDJs wouldn't work, and then I got a ride out the venue and mostly avoided everyone except a couple of security that managed to almost fight me. And then eventually I had to pay to replace the CDJs after a very lengthy email chain, which was, in hindsight, all very embarrassing. Sorry, everyone.
Dude, if that shit happened today, man, you would get so cancelled, man. What year did this happen?
It's a very long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, fuck lucky.
I guess, well,
I mean, actually, maybe not, because sorry, you're breaking up again. But I mean, maybe you wouldn't get cancelled because it's Datsik and he's cancelled. So maybe people would be like, "Yeah, you did the right thing, Jon.
I did the right thing." It was the first time I busted. The first time I met him, I ran out. I don't know what it was about him that made me want to attack him, but I ran out the first time with some of the girls dancing on stage had umbrellas with LEDs all over them. Mm-hmm. And I grabbed one and I ran out and whacked it over his head, and then I just kept going, and slowly the umbrella disintegrated with a flappy metal hand. And he up and went down in.
Oh no, you've completely dropped out on my end.
My top's on.
Oh no, you're back.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it sprayed everywhere and went all over my high tops, and I had to spend the rest of the show with a 20K on my finger. That was how it started. And then I think he did something that threw an ice bucket, and I thought, next time I see him, he's getting the fire extinguisher. But
Damn.
yeah, it taught me after that to carefully study the bottle of a pressurized canister before you release it.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
yes, I'm sorry to everyone who was inconvenienced by my actions. It's been a long time.
Damn, that's a good story. Well, man, I don't want to, keep you up too much longer. I know it's like later there than it is here. But dude, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I think it's been an amazing chat. I didn't expect it to go in some of the directions it did, and yeah, it was fun.
Well, thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on. It's been great.
Of course, man. All right, have a good one.
Peace.
I'm just gonna stop recording now, and then